Okay. Right. So, very briefly, although I may wait for a second before I start, although I'm not too sure that I will actually, because if you didn't know it was coming on, you weren't in the last one. Either way, the principle of charity. So, briefly, this was a really short assignment that I did arguing against the principle, which in theory sounds odd. But hopefully you'll get more of a feel for why I would argue against something that sounds so lovely when I tell you what it is. I mean, it's still, depending on your debating opponent, it's broadly speaking, it is the nice thing to do. However, I'm just going to make a start. I can see the chat, I just can't see the screen at the moment. So the principle of charity, broadly speaking, suggests to us that we would avoid attributing logical fallacies or falsehoods to another person's stated viewpoint when a more rational interpretation is available, even if the interpretation is that we are at fault in our understanding of their argument. So because of the presupposition that we have a genuine and honest opponent in our debate, that's the reason that I argued against it. Either way, again, broadly, I guess, this was espoused initially by Rabbi Meir, 139 to 163. In his statement, a person does not say things without reason. However, Donald Davidson summarized a variant of this principle, which is more widely known, in what he sometimes called the principle of rational accommodation, and thus says we make maximum sense of the words and thoughts of others when we interpret in a way that optimizes agreement. And again, I found this, I don't know, alarm bells a little bit. And this is what I wrote. This is further what I wrote. I'm continuing with what I wrote. The fact that interpretation is required, as opposed to allowing an argument to stand or fall on its own merit, shows this principle to be methodological. It is an application. However, if we are to play a part and impose our reasoning as an integral requirement of this interpretation, this would seem to preclude understanding of views which are seeming exclusions of non-contradiction, e.g. poetry or Hegel. To implement the principle, it can be necessary to alter the meaning of a statement favorably. That's another one of my problems with it. One fundamental requisite to be attributed to criticism, for example, is that it should be objective, focusing upon the nature of the question at hand as opposed to its effects upon the critic. This approach within debate has the advantage of negating the potential to attribute charitable interpretation to the point where the topic debated has become unrecognizable without the application of the principle. Just as one can come deductively to a justified true belief in a way that is factually erroneous. And that's like contrary to the previous like long and widely held belief within the philosophical community, if I can call them that. I think Aristotle or Socrates said that only belief and statements that contain them can be true or false. However, the fact that you can come to a true conclusion beginning with false premises shows that to be unjustified. Law is an area where argument is essential, and the benefit of the doubt or charitable interpretation is an appropriate approach within that arena. However, referring to the law, Alan Hutchinson writes, under the guise of valid and impersonal interpretation, a textualist approach smuggles in surreptitiously through the back door that which it ceremoniously denies entry at the front door. And the thing it smuggles in is the personal preferences of the reader or of the judge. So the principle of charity can be seen as one end of a spectrum diametrically opposite the logical fallacy of the straw man. So, you know, the straw man to give you like a soundbite. The straw man is when you modify the opponent's argument into something he is not actually saying, which is easier to attack. It's like a totem, a representation of the argument that's like easier to destroy, like a real straw man. And what I'm arguing here is that the principle of charity is basically diametrically opposed to that. Because it's trying to make something real, but applying your own interpretation to it. So Thomas, I now go on to say, discussing the principle in an informal logic text for the first time, formulated it this way. And this is the quote. If a passage has no inference indicators or other explicit signs of reasoning, and the only possible argument or arguments you can locate in it would obviously involve bad reasoning, then categorize the discourse as non-argument. And that's Blair and Johnson, 1978, for anyone who wants to know. This widens the criteria of the principle slightly, assuming others to hold or share similar understanding regarding reason, which we know is not always the case. Nearly there now, because it's only a short piece. A background of mutually shared belief need not be assumed beforehand, thank goodness. Essentially, two speakers need not agree prior to discussion. However, to communicate fruitfully, they would need to establish such a background. If we accept this, we should be careful when placing too much emphasis upon agreement within the principle of charity. In order to have discussions which are at their core integrative, I feel that agreement should be the desired outcome as opposed to a condition required at the offset. And that's it in a nutshell. That's what I think about that. So this may be one of the mythical, really short videos. So if you have any comment on that, speak now or forever hold it. And otherwise I'll stop, because it's amazing how many words you can get into a few minutes, quite frankly. Maybe my chat isn't loading, but maybe nobody's typing, you know. Either way, I'm just pleased my computer's working okay. So I may charitably conclude that nobody wants to speak to me. That wouldn't really be the charitable thing. The charitable interpretation would be that everybody's computer's broken. So I won't do that, because I just argued against it. I'll just assume you're all malicious. I don't see any comments or any things. So I'm going to have a video that's under 10 minutes. I can't believe it. Shocking. It's never been done intentionally anyway. Right, I'm going to press the first. There's the first button. I thought it was on my phone for a minute. Right, I pressed it. So you have like maybe 10 seconds while I waffle out. But yeah, that's it. The next inspirational female Christian is going to be Julian of Norwich. That's a good point. I have 2 to 3 interviews that I was traveling, so I postponed, and then I had the funeral, so I also postponed a different one. Please God, I get them sorted out soon, although I do have another assignment, which I'm obviously procrastinating against by doing this vid. And that's it. So I hope to see you in the next one. Any comments, questions, likes, shares, subscribes, etc. I don't know. Do the stuff that you need to do, but more importantly, repent, pray, come to Jesus if you haven't already. What's keeping you? If you have an answer to that question, stick it in the comment section. I'll do my bestest. And other than that, I'm going to say see you later. Ciao. Bye.